Smell us now, lady.
Welcome to MeatEater Trivia.
MeatEater Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to MeatEater Radio Live. As always, it's 11 a.m. on Thursday here at MeatEater HQ in wintry Bozeman, Montana. It's 8 a.m. in Maui, where it's currently about 75 degrees, which sounds pretty nice. It'd be nice to be out there hunting pigs and axis deer in shorts and a t-shirt. But anyway, I'm your host, Brody. I'm joined today by Janis and Randall.
Good morning.
You know these guys. Today we're going to talk to our favorite local wild game butcher, Anna Borgman, and we're also going to chat with our friend Jim Heffelfinger about lumpers, splitters, and extinct elk. And we've got a news roundup for you and another round of hot tip-offs from our listeners. So we're going to get right into it and have some fun today. Before we get into the first interview, big game season's over. It's kind of sad.
I got the mega post big game season blues going right now.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but they're still hunting to be done. What do you guys got planned for the next?
Do you guys
month?
get the blues too?
Oh yeah,
season
big blues right now. I don't really have any plans at the moment.
No,
trying to figure out what tags I'm going to apply for. Got the calendar for 2026
Giannis
out.
will get into that a little
looking
bit
at season
later.
dates and points and all that stuff.
Yeah.
mountain lion season's open.
That's right.
Yeah, I've already had a couple days out there. Found some tracks, but they were going into private, so we didn't cut loose on them.
Yeah, we're getting some snow now, which is good for you too.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Makes it life easy.
You
mentioned Maui and how nice to be there. Are you already sick of the cold? And we're not even barely into
I'm
December.
Old. I get sick of the real cold stuff easy.
Do you think you're going to turn into a snowbird?
No, but eventually I might turn into like a mid-south bird. Like if I moved, I want to be somewhere where there was seasons and it snowed once in a while.
So
I'm
like
not there yet,
like a Missouri.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll buy some land from Clay and move in down there.
Ooh, Arkansas.
Yeah, I for whatever reason, this cold snap hit pretty badly.
Well, that's because it
we
was
had,
so warm
50
forever.
degrees all November,
Yeah.
and then one day it's just like 10 degrees and blowing snow, and then I was taking Yanni's trailer back to his house, and we got 2 pickups stuck and a trailer stuck.
At his house?
Yeah.
Jeez, man, get that plow truck out.
Well, we did.
Well, we did. Because he needed to pull me out with the plow truck.
One nice thing about the cold is I think we're going to hopefully get some early spearing ice. And I'm tentatively planning a spearing trip with the boys for pike and hopefully like work some pheasant hunting into that too.
Toscani or where?
No.
Oh.
Montana,
yeah.
baby.
Gotcha.
Some big pike here.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun over Christmas break. Hopefully it stays cold enough and we'll get some good ice.
Call me if you go. I'd like to go do that.
Yeah. Are you going to be around over break?
Yep.
All right.
Can I go too?
Yeah, man.
Perfect.
You got a spear?
I don't have a spear,
Let's go
but
grab
I
one out of Steve's
I was just
garage.
thinking about.
got a bunch of decoys.
Yeah.
I just like to watch. And,
We should
and
take a whole posse out there, man. It's fun.
empty a few cans and bottles
Put some tip-ups
out
out.
on the ice. Yeah,
Yep.
that would be super fun.
Yep. All right. Enough talking about our fun. We got to get into the serious stuff and move on to our first guest. Jim Heffelfinger. Many of you guys have seen or listened to him on the podcast, so hopefully you know him. But did we got Jim up yet, or did he disappear on us?
Oh, he's still here, but he's not in yet. Let's bring him in.
There he is. Jim, for people who aren't familiar with you, just quickly introduce yourself and let us know what you do, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I'm a wildlife science coordinator for Arizona Game and Fish Department. I've been with the department for 33 years, and probably most of my focus there has been big game management, Western big game. I chair a Western North America mule deer working group, and then also involved in Mexican wolf recovery the last 15 years.
Nice. But you also do some work with elk, which we're going to
do a
talk
lot
about
of
today.
Interesting things.
the reason the big reason I wanted to have you on today is because you're doing some pretty cool work with Merriam's elk, and if you're not familiar with Merriam's elk, it's jump in and correct me wherever I screw up, Jim. But Merriam's elk are an extinct subspecies of elk, and Jim's doing some work trying to figure out like were they different than other elk, like do they deserve the subspecies designation, all that stuff. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, we got to talk about lumpers and splitters. So, Jim, can you real quick explain like the two basic schools of thought that biologists kind of fall into when it comes time for someone like yourself to like identify and classify wildlife species and subspecies?
Yeah, absolutely. There's we've got to classify animals as species, and then when we start classifying animals as subspecies, things get a little sketchy. And so there's this concept of lumpers and splitters, and people fall into one category or the other, or somewhere in between. And it basically, at the most basic level, is the lumpers are focusing on similarities between animals. Like they might look at all elk and just say, they're basically elk. They differ a little bit in the east and the west, and but they're all just elk, so they're all one kind of animal. Other people focus on differences, and they might say, well, this one's a little darker. This one has antlers that tend to crown a little bit more, and these have like smaller antlers. And so those are like the splitters that want to split these animals up into a whole bunch of different categories. We'll talk about Merriam's elk was named after Seahart Merriam. Merriam actually designated 84 different brown bear and grizzly bear species, not even subspecies. But
yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Like,
yeah.
I tend to myself to like kind of lean towards the lumper school of thought because the splitters can get out of control. I think at one point there was like, I'm just throwing a number out there, but Steve and I are working on a book right now, and it comes up there where there was like over 100 different subspecies of Canada goose at one point,
yeah,
which is kind of ridiculous, but there's good reasons for splitting too when it comes to managing species on like a regional or more local level. Like having subspecies can allow for better management of those animals.
Sometimes they'll focus on animals, but pure taxonomists, though, we don't split animals just so that there's some conservation focus on that animal. Taxonomy is a pure science of, are those animals really different? And then if they're different, then we should probably be doing some different conservation actions on different ones. Right.
Okay, so let's talk elk and have you run through the generally accepted subspecies of elk in North America, both living and extinct. And we've got a map that you're going to explain isn't quite accurate, but hopefully it can help people visualize where these different elk subspecies live now or lived before they went extinct.
Yeah, sure. I sent you that map and I said, this is wrong because it's not 100% right, but it's the closest representation of just generally these different subspecies that people have been recognizing over and over again. The eastern elk people hear about east of the Mississippi. Those things disappeared so quick that science didn't really catch up and document many specimens. They weren't studied physically, so we don't know a lot about whether they differed in the east. But the Manitoban elk in the middle of the continent and Rocky Mountain elk, they don't, all the genetic work that's been done, they don't separate out genetically as different subspecies. And I suspect if we had the same kind of data for eastern elk, you'd see eastern Manitoba and Rocky Mountain really just the same thing.
And when you say like this is elk running around in Kansas right now.
Yeah, you cut out there for a second, but there's no geographic barriers that would have isolated those three individual animals, those subspecies.
Yep. So what's that? A total of six subspecies we've got?
Right. So those are three in the continental, and then the Roosevelt and the Thule elk, a lot of different genetic analysis have separated those out. So genetically, they will break out as separate subspecies.
Yep.
And we don't know because they were isolated. And so in that isolation, they created some genetic differences and they're a little bit different. We don't know if how far those differences, how far they were isolated go back in time. Like if we went back 400, 300 years, they may have been all the same, and it's really human influence isolating those populations. We don't really know that. Bottom line is Roosevelt and Thule will break out genetically. Rocky Mountain, Manitoban, and what little we know about Eastern really don't break out separately.
Go ahead.
Jim, this is Randall. when you say that Manitoban elk don't break out genetically compared to like a Rocky Mountain elk, can you describe some? I assume then the difference that has been identified in the past to make that distinction is just a physical, visual characteristic. Yeah. Can you describe what that is?
Yes, the physical descriptions that people use to describe these different subspecies, they're oftentimes like they shot an elk, or they shot 2 elk, and they said these look kind of darker, and so they drew a big polygon on the map, and they said this is the eastern elk. They gave it a subspecies name, and they said this is a new subspecies. And in most cases, those subspecies are described separately based on a couple little general characteristics. They would not hold up to modern day kind of scientific thinking at all.
Gotcha.
What about Roosevelt versus Rocky Mountain? Like, you can look at those to someone who's looked at a lot of elk. You can look at like a mature Roosevelt bull and a mature Rocky Mountain bull, and there's like obvious physical differences, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Bigger body on the Roosevelt, smaller, heavier antlers on the Roosevelt.
More tendency to crown out on Roosevelt.
Yep.
You're right. Physically, you can tell. And so it's interesting then that genetically those break out too. So that kind of supports that.
Yeah.
Tule elk being a little smaller. Tule elk as a population were bottlenecked. It got down to a very small number of individuals, and now they've recovered somewhat. So some of those genetic differences might just be that they had a lot of inbreeding when they were a small population and then grew bigger. But those physically too look different than Roosevelt and a big Rocky Mountain.
So the 2 that are considered extinct are the Easterns, which I think were considered gone by like 1880. I think the last ones might have been Pennsylvania, I read. You'd probably know better than me. And then there's these Merriam's elk, which are southwestern elk from Arizona. Were they in any other like of the contiguous United States, or just Arizona?
Arizona and New Mexico. Yeah, and here's where the map is wrong. A textbook came out called Elk of North America, actually, and it showed these long 2 fingers of distribution going into Mexico, but there's no evidence of that. Someone published a paper, and they looked at all the archaeological digs, and they found no evidence of elk in Mexico. So that's in error. If they were really, the Merriam's elk was described as being central and northern Arizona and New Mexico. But then...
So let's focus on them, since that's what you're working on. Tell us like what you're trying to do, and then we'll get into like if you can like weigh. I know your work isn't done yet, but are you trying to figure out it like if they warrant a subspecies designation, or like is the work you're doing with Merriam's elk?
And part of that is not just a gee whiz thing. Part of that is some people will complain and say, well, the Merriam's elk we had in the Southwest were very different ecologically, and now you brought elk from Yellowstone in to replace them, and they're different, like more damaging ecologically, which is there's no evidence of that.
Right.
It's so part of it is this complaint that you've got different elk here, and that remains to be seen, because if you notice on that map, northern and central Arizona and New Mexico butts right up against southern Colorado.
Yeah.
In southern Utah. And in Arizona, there's a thing we call the Grand Canyon, which is a really big ditch that runs across there. So there's some separation there, but there's a connection all through southern Colorado into northern New Mexico. And so there's a question about, were those really different? Because there were only 3 Merriam's elk specimens that were saved for science in museums. So the last couple of decades, scientists have been talking about just 3 specimens of Merriam's elk. We started this study to try to see if Merriam's elk really were a valid subspecies. They can't be extinct if they never existed in the first place, if they were just an extension of Colorado. So let's look at those unknown Merriam's elk specimens. And there was only 3 when we started. I spent a week in Smithsonian, spent time in the American Museum twice. We combed every elk specimen in there. We went to Chicago Museum, went to UC Berkeley, looked at elk specimens. We now have identified 13 Merriam's elk specimens instead of 3. We have genetic samples from all 13 of those Merriam's elk specimens. So the first.
Can I stop you for 1 second? When were they gone from Arizona?
Right. So they're gone in 1906, the last record in Arizona, and about the same time in New Mexico. We brought Yellowstone elk in 1913 through 1928, basically the first onslaught. About the same as what was happening in Pennsylvania with eastern elk. They were bringing Yellowstone elk about the same time in the 19 teens. And so we only had a gap from 1906 to 1913 where the old elk died out and the new elk were brought in from Yellowstone. So there's always been a question, did some of the original Merriam's elk, were they down in the bottom of a canyon and they made it through that 10 years or so and now interbred with the Yellowstone elk? And maybe Arizona elk are big because they've got genetics from the Merriam's elk. There's a lot of talk about that. Yeah, so that's an interesting side part of it. So we got 13 samples instead of 3. Extracted DNA. We send in DNA from not only those 100-year-old Merriam's elk samples, but 100-year-old Colorado samples and 100-year-old Yellowstone National Park samples. So we were comparing apples to apples because genetics could change through time, but we're comparing elk at that time, 100 years ago. And we sent in 50 samples and we got usable DNA from 48 of those 50 samples, which is amazing when you're talking about a 100-year-old shed antler that we've got DNA out of. So that was really the first step, is what samples are available. Can we get DNA out of it? And now we're not complete. There's a PhD student, Kenzie, who's doing this for her PhD, and she's only a year into a 4-year PhD. So we certainly don't have results, but we've got really promising extraction to DNA. We've got some good quantities of DNA to play with, and now analyzing whether there's any differences between Merriam's elk and other elk.
So you're still waiting on results is basically absolutely where you're at. It's kind of surprising to me that they, a species that was hunted and just like considered extinct in 1906, like just barely over 100 years ago, that you had that much trouble finding samples. Like, you think there'd be old racks hanging in barns and like bones popping. Like you'd think there'd be some around, right?
Right. And I get those emails, but if you're doing science and you're analyzing differences between Merriam's elk and other elk, you can't use some antler that someone had in the barn that people said was Merriam's elk. So we've got to make that clean break of known Merriam's elk in museums. But it will also be interesting if we find a difference between Merriam's elk genetically and other elk. We can use that as a diagnostic tool to test some of those interesting antlers that are laying around.
Yeah. I wanted to pin you down and get a verdict from you. But that's not going to happen, obviously.
Well, I got a pin him down question. Why is this worthy of your time?
Oh, not like I said, not only the interesting part, but we need to have some information to inform these criticisms that you've got the wrong elk here. You've got this giant Yellowstone elk and it's destroying the aspen and destroying the forest. And then also, it's also of great interest to our stakeholders and people that are interested in this. Do we have any Merriam's elk genes in today's Arizona elk? There's a lot of people forever that have been talking about that, like constant chatter. And it just on that alone will be pretty fascinating to have an answer for that.
Are you able to put out like an opinion yet? Like, were they different? Do you personally think? You're just like, wait.
He's a science man.
I know that,
that's right.
But you always got to ask. You got to try and get them to say something.
That's not the way science works. So we'll see. But
we're the mainstream media here, Jim. We need to pin you down before the results are in.
No, I don't. But I don't mind highlighting the fact that we've got elk in Colorado that come right down to the northern New Mexico border, and you had elk all through northern New Mexico. It's hard to envision how just those elk in Arizona and New Mexico were substantially different. I mean, the Grand Canyon over by Arizona could be seen as a barrier, but you've got what seems like continuous habitat. So it's hard to vision how somehow they broke out to be really different in Arizona.
And
there's like environmental factors involved too. Like why are Roosevelt elk significantly different than Rocky Mountain elk? Like I would assume it's partially driven by the environment. They live like very thick, dark forests, so they don't need these huge antlers to display from a long distance. Like what are the reasons there, do you think?
Yeah, certainly when you have different ecological conditions, and that's a great example because you have like rainforests, and so you have animals that tend to get darker in thick forests, and animals out in the open plains like a Rocky Mountain elk tend to be more lighter and more cream-like. That happens with a lot of different animals. And also open plains animals are more visual, so their rump patches sometimes are more vibrant, more white, more contrasting. Antlers are larger because they're more visible animals. If you're a Roosevelt elk sneaking around in the coastal rainforest, there's not a lot of visual cues that people are using. And so their antlers can be smaller and darker and the body's darker. And that's just an adaptation to local conditions.
Yep. So, I mean, with that in mind, it's hard to imagine Merriam's being that much different from Rocky Mountain elk.
Right.
Ecologically, their habitat and nutrition is the same.
Yeah, and I think you see it on the eastern, the elk that occupy the eastern range of elk now, like their antlers, when they're small, they look similar to ours, but like as they get bigger, they get very crowned out and they look very different. Like the bulls in Pennsylvania look very different than our bulls here.
Part of that might just be because they're not getting hunted as much. They live longer. They got easier winters. I don't know. We're getting off on a tangent, but I want to talk to you, Jim, about what Janis brought up, which is all these very successful elk reintroductions that have taken place around the country. Like when I was a kid, like seeing an elk in Pennsylvania was like a big deal. It was like a very small reintroduced herd, and now they've got a whole bunch of them. Like you can watch these elk on live cams in Pennsylvania, like during the rut. Like we've got these places where they congregate, and you can just watch them on your computer. And those same reintroductions have happened in a few southeastern states and in the upper Midwest. And the interesting thing is, like, these are all like this is former habitat of eastern elk. The eastern elk subspecies, which you said we don't really know a lot about and how much different they might have been. I guess my question is like how like these subspecies categorizations, like if you can just plug a Rocky Mountain elk into Pennsylvania or the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, like how valuable are these subspecies distinctions if you can just like put an elk from Yellowstone into one of these very different environments and they thrive. They do just fine.
And, we see that with turkeys certainly too, with the turkey subspecies. But just because something a different subspecies doesn't mean it's like not going to do really well in a different environment. But it does have local genetic adaptations and physical adaptations to that environment. So you can't, and then also you think about Rocky Mountain, Manitoba, and Eastern elk were probably the same. So when you're moving those animals, they probably aren't much different than what was there originally, even Merriam's elk potentially. But if you could take a Roosevelt elk, put it in Pennsylvania, and they would probably do okay, but they're not adapted to that environment. So there might be some underlying genetic things that make it harder for them to thrive.
Cool. Well, you got to keep us posted on what you find out. I guess you got 3 more years of work you're looking at on this stuff.
Yep, that's right. And there's other people doing a majority of the work. I did a lot of the sampling and involved in the beginning of it. Now the geneticists are sitting at the genetics lab bench doing most of the work. One interesting thing is that Seahart Merriam, who Merriam's elk is named after, he's the one who named Roosevelt elk after Theodore Roosevelt. And there's a letter that's on display at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. And it's Theodore Roosevelt writing back on the Department of Navy letterhead, thanking Seahart Merriam for naming that elk after him.
We talked about this a little bit through email. Merriam's, how many species does that guy have his name attached to?
He named 71 species, but not with his own name. He has about 12 species that have his name on it. One interesting factoid too is that Vernon Bailey used to work for Seahart Merriam as a mammologist. Vernon Bailey then married Merriam's sister, and Vernon Bailey is the guy who described eastern elk for science. So a lot of the same famous people running in the same circles, as you can see by that picture with Seahart Merriam driving Teddy Roosevelt around.
Yeah, for sure.
Jim, are you hoping to one day attach your name to a new subspecies?
Heffelfinger eye. I was hoping a deer species. Heffelfinger eye would be nice.
Yeah.
We'll keep our eyes out for one of those running around. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, we're going to let you go. Have fun at that big Boone and Crockett conference you're at right now.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Jim.
Yep. See ya.
Interesting stuff.
I want Jim to, it sounds like there's some people in Arizona who are upset about all these big giant bulls walking around. They want some smaller elk. I'd like Jim to make those connections for us.
Sure.
I'd be happy to help them with that problem.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's probably people that just don't want hunting in general.
Right. Exactly. Let's move on to a news roundup. I assigned these guys a little homework to find some interesting news stuff that you guys should know about. I think we've got Randall first. Randall, what are you going to fill people in on?
Yeah, this is not a very fun or exciting news topic, but
Let's do it anyway.
I feel like this season I've probably seen more news stories than in years past about accidental hunter deaths from gunshot wounds. The most recent one I saw was in Pennsylvania, which just opened like last week.
Yep.
Guy was shot in a deer drive. There's another one in Texas, and then there's two. One's actually very close to home here in Montana, and another one in Idaho, and those actually involved law enforcement officers on their time off. And those two cases and the one that I saw in Texas, the circumstances were very similar. It was getting in and out of a vehicle,
right,
and casing and uncasing firearms. And it's just a good reminder, I guess, to always, keep safety at front of mind. And no one ever thinks they're going to be that person involved in an accident like that.
Yeah.
And, before we started recording here, we were all saying we've been in situations where someone had a loaded gun that they thought was unloaded. And,
Yep.
And, that stuff only happens when you aren't constantly challenging yourself. Like, did I unload this? Did I
Exactly.
see them unload this? And it's just always got to be front of mind. So yeah, I don't know that I've got much else there. The one thing I will say, in pulling these stories together, and someone had sent me one of these earlier in the year. There are fundraisers for the families of the two law enforcement officers who died. One was a law enforcement officer from California who died in a hunt in Idaho, I think in October, and his name is Nathan Cass, Kaas. And if you go to helpahero.com, there's a fundraiser for his wife and kids. And then a guy named Michael Floor, who is I believe he was a sheriff's deputy with Gallatin County here in Montana, and there's a GoFundMe for Michael Floor, FLOHR. So, this time of year, we all look forward to it, and then when it's gone, we're all sad, but and it's kind of fun to tell stories and do all that, but it's very serious business whenever you have loaded guns around. So just seeing all these in the headlines, I felt compelled to bring it up.
It's interesting. I doubt that there's been more this year on average than in the past, accidental, like involving hunters, accidental shooting deaths. And I would also guess that in the same period of time, there were way more accidental shooting deaths among non-hunters that didn't make the news, but these things tend to hit the headlines for whatever reason. But it is just a great reminder just to always be safe.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to get up in people's faces about it because people like to act like it's not a big deal. And as a guide, you learn very quickly that it's a no strike policy. You know what I mean? You just don't put up with any of it. And if you have someone in your group that continues to do it, you need to quit hunting with them,
right?
Because it's just a matter of time till they make a mistake.
Yeah, and it's easy to keep all that stuff in mind when you're at the range and you're taking your time and you're very methodical in how you approach it. But when you're hunting, you're cold, you're tired. There's animals moving quickly. You might wear yourself out to the point that you're no longer thinking straight, and you just got to always double check and triple check. And that's even when I'm hunting with my wife, I'll ask her did you unload it? And she'll say yes and hand it to me, and I'll stick my finger up in the chamber, just 'cause,
and I think you're just begging for trouble if you're the kind of hunter who's it's hard not to be, but maybe you're driving from spot to spot, or maybe you're even road hunting. We're I got to be ready.
Yeah, I'm
in the truck, but I got to be ready. Having not even having one in the pipe, having a clip in the rifle, whatever it might be. I don't think you can be thinking about what happens if a buck pops out right next to the road kind of thing, or stuff like that.
Oh, it was killing me this fall in Wisconsin. I was climbing trees a bunch, and going up in a saddle, I would have to pull my rifle up, with the string.
Yeah.
And, of course, I wanted it to be unloaded when I was doing that because you're literally pointing it up. Well, I guess you could pull it up butt end first.
Either way.
But, you don't want it to be loaded. But the bad part is that when you're in that tree and it's 30 minutes before daylight and it's super quiet, and then you gotta rack one, you know? Oh God, it almost made me want to like pull a loaded gun up the tree, but which I never did. But like I learned to I would take extra clothes so I could like cover the whole action with a jacket, and then slowly just slide one in there and try to make it as quiet as I could.
Yeah, no shortcuts.
Yep. Janis, what do you got going?
Big news out of Idaho. I think it's big news. A lot of us that live here in Montana and people that live all over this country like to hunt in Idaho. You don't really want to go hunt there if you're into like elk and deer, because the wolves have eaten most of them. But if you want to give it a shot, they're going to make it a little bit easier. A lot of us complained in years past. This has all happened in probably the last 10 years, because 10 years ago I hunted Idaho, and I was literally able to buy a deer license at the gas station with like 5 days left in the season. And when I bought it, the guy offered me a second one. Mm-hmm. That is no longer the case. The last, 5 to 10 years, you've had to either go in and stand in line or stand in a digital line, like a queue.
Stand in line in Idaho.
Yeah, in Idaho. Or get online and stand in a digital queue, and they gave you a number, and that's kind of the order that you'd get to try to buy a license. And it was a mess. It was hard. I think there was a lot of people gaming the system.
Took forever.
And they had more technology errors than we do on this program.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was not
It's
cool.
Pretty bad.
The way it worked is, you were assigned, like, if you were going to do this online thing, you were assigned a random number for a position in line.
Yeah.
So,
like last year, I tried it, and I think I had 5 devices open.
Right.
Like I had my wife's phone, my phone, a couple computers, maybe even like my daughter's iPad or something, right? The lowest number I had was 7,000 something. Mm-hmm. Wasn't going to get a tag, or at least not one of the tags I wanted. So now they've listened to the complaints, and they're changing it. It's going to be just a straight up application process. Very short application period, which I was surprised about. December 5th to the 15th. Yeah. So it's actually opens tomorrow. You have 10 days to do it. You have to buy a hunting license to apply. The hunting license is non-refundable. The way I look at it when I do that is just that, you're chipping in on conservation.
Sure.
Because there's a good chance you're not going to get the tag. And you're not going to get that. I think it's like 160.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
It's in the upper half of the 100s.
Yeah.
It's
185 maybe.
I think there will be people that are like, nah, I'm not that committed. But the people who are committed will pay it. It's something other states do. So, it's something to think about. You're like, you could end up not getting a tag, and you're still in for whatever, $150, $200.
And this is just for general season, like regular old, what used to be, what you'd call an over-the-counter tag. This is not for what they call their controlled hunts. And so if you're like looking to apply for a special unit for a big buck in a special date range, this is not it. This is just for like the general season.
You
tags.
Still have to pick like a unit.
Yeah.
Though, right?
Yes.
Unit, species, all that stuff.
Non-residents have to pick a unit, but it's for like the general season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be good. Hopefully, there'll be less stress.
And there's no. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no. It's a total lottery, right? Like they're not going to have a preference point system.
Correct.
Or anything like that. It's just going to be a pure lottery.
Yeah.
Idaho doesn't have points for anything.
Right.
Which I like.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, if you're an unlucky person, you could go your entire life and never draw a tag there. It is what it is. I like this system better than what like Colorado's got going.
Yeah. And I think like the new, more and more things are going to a draw, and like that's a bummer, but the way that it was working before, if you could fly to Idaho and spend money on a hotel room, you were going to get it, or if you had an outfitter who would wait in line for you, you'd get it. So this just makes the
playing field so even.
It levels the playing field for people. And like you said, I think it takes a lot of stress out of it.
Yeah. And what else I like about Idaho, and I'll leave it at this, is that they really, I forget what the numbers were, but they cap their non-resident numbers, and it's not that high. It's like 10 to 15K per species, per deer and elk, and so it's that way they're gonna give their residents and the few non-residents that get to hunt there, they're gonna give them a quality hunt. And I would much rather have that every 3 years than go and have a crowded hunt every year.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
Cool.
don't go hunt there because of the wolves and the bears.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, last time I was there, it didn't seem like there were many wolves or many elk or deer left because of the wolves and the lions eating them all. But it's up to you.
Yeah, give it a try if you're feeling adventurous.
Speaking of wolves, Brody.
Of wolves, been a while since we've done a Colorado wolf update, and there's been some action down there. So I thought I'd give you guys a little update. They famously started their reintroduction program a couple years ago after a ballot box initiative. So it's been going on for a little while now. There's currently about 30 in the state of Colorado, 30 wolves. And those were sourced from Oregon and Canada, or those part of those 30 are offspring of those reintroduced wolves. Over the last couple of years, at least a dozen have died from various causes, including being lethally removed for livestock predation. The state's got a goal of reintroducing at least another 20, with a end goal of establishing a population of 200. But the thing is like they're running out of options. They found themselves in a position where they're running out of options to find places to get wolves. The ones they got from Oregon ended up being livestock killers. The ones they got from British Columbia, I think, have maybe also been, some of them have been involved in some of that livestock predation. But either way, like Colorado wants more wolves. It's to be determined whether they're going to get more wolves. Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, they've always refused to give wolves to Colorado, largely for political reasons. And recently, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service mandated that Colorado has to source its wolves from the Northern Rockies in the United States, meaning no wolves from Canada, no wolves from Alaska. So now they're getting pinched by the Fish and Wildlife Service. Then they turned to Washington recently, and Washington declined because they feel like they can't afford to take wolves out of Washington and risk the population they have, reducing the population they have there. Oregon also declined to provide more wolves to Colorado. So like two states that were kind of like politically aligned with Colorado just bailed and said, no, we're not giving them to you. And those were really Colorado's last best options to get wolves. I don't think they'll be able to get them like Great Lakes wolves from Wisconsin or Minnesota. So we're kind of in a holding pattern to see if this reintroduction is going to continue. There are they could go to some Native American reservations that might be willing to provide wolves. They tried that at one point. It didn't work out. So it'll be interesting to see if this reintroduction program continues. It's under there are people who are very unhappy with the money aspect of this in Colorado. The projection was $800,000 per year cost to the state that the voters agreed to. Last year, the program went wildly. It's consistently went over budget. Last year, it went wildly over budget, $3.5 million. And that doesn't include a budget of several $100,000 to reimburse ranchers for lost livestock, which they drained. They completely drained that fund to reimburse ranchers. And some lawmakers in Colorado are calling the situation out of control. Governor Polis has been forced to cut the budget, and lawmakers are forbidding Colorado Parks and Wildlife from using remaining general fund dollars to acquire more wolves. So, like, they might be at a point where they're kind of treading water for a while.
You think Idaho would give them some wolves since they're so overrun with them? They don't even have any elk and deer left. But
no.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking politically, yeah, it's folks don't want to see wolves spread. They like folks in Montana, Idaho don't want to be part of like sending wolves to Colorado. But on the other hand, getting wolves out of Montana and Idaho.
Yeah, but it'd only be 10 or 15 of them, so they can make that up pretty quick. But yeah, there's your Colorado update. There's still wolves there. We'll see how it works out with them getting towards that goal of 200 wolves. But right now, it's not happening.
Oh, it's going to be a major smudge, I feel like, on Polis's tenure.
Yeah.
The way he handled the whole situation where, like,
he kind of inserted himself into an issue he didn't.
Yeah, they had wolves coming.
Yeah.
It was happening all on its own. And he whatever, had to make a big deal out of it. And it is just, yeah.
Yeah, and his wildlife commission played a big role. Like appointees played a big role in it too, which like makes me think that some part of me thinks that those wildlife commission people should be voted in, not appointed in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Phil, what's the chat doing right now?
Sure, really quick. I saw several of you had some questions for Jim during his segment. I emailed him and told him to go back and check those out if he feels obliged, and he absolutely does not need to. But I did let him know that those questions are there, so maybe you'll get a little
thanks for that, Phil.
DM from the conservation ringer himself. Let's see here. First off, Fishing Fanatics, nothing like sitting in the stand listening to MeatEater Radio Live. Thank you. And then Nate, he's in the chat almost every week. Got his first ever buck on Sunday. 146 and a half inches, 12-pointer. And
beautiful.
His first thought was Thursday can't come soon enough so I can tell the live chat and the crew.
Holy
so
moly,
congrats,
that's
Nate.
a pig.
Yeah. All downhill from here.
Yeah, that's a high bar.
No free ads, but free hot tips. Justin says, I just upgraded my OnX subscription and have been doing a bit of playing around. What are your favorite features that are lesser known? If you guys use any lesser known OnX features.
I like to plan stocks, like figuring out yardage and things like that. I forget the
rangefinder.
Yeah, the SIG. Yeah, and other manufacturers do that as well, but you can link your rangefinder to the.
That's a sweet. Like if you find a bedded buck that you're going to be out of sight of for a while, like marking that spot and planning your stock. That's a good feature.
I've been using the now it's integrated with the Moultrie cameras, and so it's like an automatic filter just to go if you want to see just pictures from one camera. We're in the Moultrie app that takes a few more steps, but on OnX you can literally just click on the icon and see only the pictures from that camera, which is pretty slick.
And that's real nice.
The one thing that I wanted them to improve for a while, and then I think in the past 2 years they added it, but the snap to feature when you're like putting a route, when you're building a route, and you can actually snap it on trails and roads, so I know exactly how far it is before I want to bust off the trail and climb a ridge or something like that. Because before you're always using just the linear like line,
which
always shorter than what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And so I build basically whenever I'm thinking about what I want to do the next day as far as like a hike, I'll build it out in OnX and get an idea of mileage and elevation change and all that. And
the 3D thing is good for that too, because like you can look at the topo, but it doesn't tell you how steep. Like you're only getting so much information, so to be able to look at that slope and be like, okay, that's going to take some more time than I thought. Like that's cool.
Let's see. It's a question from Cord. He says, how often do your Western schools go on lockdown for dangerous animals in the area? He said that he had a mountain lion stroll through a neighborhood and they went into a 2-hour shelter in place. He says, does that seem like an overreaction? Have your kids' schools ever gone into some sort of like lockdown because of a bear or anything like that?
No, I think they had a bear actually walk through Bozeman High a couple of years ago.
Wasn't there a grizzly that showed up over in by the elementary school in Bear Canyon a few years ago?
Yeah, nothing changed.
I don't think
There was like a pair of mountain lions in Missoula that was hanging out at a bus stop, and they closed the bus stop. And
probably smart.
I remember that because it was right by my buddy's house. But yeah, other than that,
I don't think it's like, yeah, sure, like we've got more large predators out west, but I don't think it's like it happens.
It's
more.
not like we got Bengal tigers out here.
Like
chewing
I think
on
there's
people.
probably schools that have been shut down back east because a coyote ran through the playground. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
I remember when I was living in Chicago watching like a live news feed of a lion running through a neighborhood, and there was like a helicopter following. You know, it was like the OJ chase, and it ran through. I believe they might have even killed it like on a school playground, but it definitely ran through a school playground. But that was one of my favorite moments from my time there.
But also in northern Minnesota, mountain lions probably something they're just not real familiar with, and they might have just been overreacting a little bit maybe, but they're probably don't see them too often.
We've got Leland, who's been really hot on the trivia questions lately. He's been getting a lot of questions in there. He asked the strangest animal you guys have Euro mounted. He's having some squirrels done. If you have had anything strange.
I did a turkey skull once. Very proud of that. The little stuff is fun, turkey skulls, and I have a bobcat skull. What else? Steve's got like the whole collection of weasels.
We
got
we have a rack.
skull.
We have one raccoon. We have a beaver skull. Beaver skull is real cool. They got some burly, solid skulls, man. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I realized too late that I should have kept the skull from my sandhill crane this year.
That would be cool. Yeah.
And I realized that while I was taking the legs off, and I had little drumsticks that were, 14 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick, Mogor says, Phil, did you and Randall knock back a beer and hot dog after that last disinformation blunder? You're going to have to be more specific, Mogor.
No, that was when you told me the wrong thing about our radio live from last week. Do you remember when you gave me the wrong information about whether or not?
Oh yeah. And then we had a fake argument, and I asked if you wanted to get a beer. You said no, but you want to get a beer after this?
Yeah, we will do that after this.
Sounds good.
But I don't.
Janis
the argument
and
was
Brody are
not.
invited too.
Just so you know, the argument was not fake on my end.
Well then, good to know, I guess. Jeez. All right,
Phil,
we've got a few more, but keep the questions coming. We'll do it again.
I want to let these guys know because it's going to have to be a kind of a quick turnaround on Phil's part, which makes life difficult. But we're doing a hot tip off, and Phil, we're going to do the listener voting thing, right?
I'm prepped and ready to go.
Okay,
hell yeah.
So be prepared as you're listening to vote on the hot tips that are coming up a little later. But we can do some more. We can move on, Phil.
We'll do another round at the end of the show.
Okay.
Great call, Phil.
All right. Our next guest is Anna Borgman. She co-owns Chaos Farms, a butchering and meat processing business that serves the community and small farms here in southwestern Montana. She's been on the podcast at least a couple times.
She's been on radio, and she's been on the main MeatEater.
So
she judged an episode of Roast.
there you go.
True.
So you guys may have seen
trivia,
her
I
before.
believe, if I'm not mistaken.
She came out to karaoke once.
Yep.
There you go. She's like basically a MeatEater employee. Anyway, she's also butchered and processed a bunch of animals for the crew when we're too busy to do it on our own. She did 10 50-pound game bags of moose meat for me last year, and I can say she did a very outstanding job. So Anna, welcome to the show. Oh, you did. You went in there. Great.
Yeah,
she's
I'm in the cooler.
standing among the meat.
Right.
Yeah, we can hear you. General rifle season just ended a few days ago here in Montana, but I imagine, and by the looks of it, I'm right, you're still pretty busy.
Yeah, it kind of seems like people hit it hard the last weekend. So
Got
we got
cold.
a lot of calls. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so we got a lot of calls, and we were running around like crazy picking up. We pick stuff up for people, and we drop it off back at the office or your house or whatever. So we were running around like crazy. We've got quite a few elk in here right now, a little bit packed. So yeah.
Nice. How many deer and elk do you think you do in a season?
Oh, geez. It's just the two of us. It's just my boyfriend and I.
Yeah.
and we kind of take on our own animals, like I'll say yes to whatever I have time for, and he says yes to whatever he has time for.
This isn't a situation where people can just roll up and drop something off to you, like a lot of meat processors.
Right. Like this cooler is, I bought a utility trailer and we just put in, foam insulation and built out a cooler. So it's pretty small. We pack it, but we do, I don't know, fewer than 100 for sure.
Okay.
But I should keep track, but it's a lot of animals.
But more in a season than most people will do in their lifetime.
Sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
But that kind of gets to where I'm going with this is you're not one of those like mega meat processors that are just doing hundreds and hundreds of animals a year, which like allows you to like operate with a much higher level of care and quality, I would say. Then I'm not bagging on meat processors and processors in general, but like the more they do, it's possible that the quality level is going to go down if they're cranking out hundreds and hundreds of animals. Sure. So as someone who's working with the goal of like doing this in small batches and putting out a really high quality product, I want to get into first what you'd lay out as like best practices for hunters before they even make the call to you, and then the most common mistakes people make out in the field before they even call you.
Yeah, I'd say best practices. I'm kind of the hill that I will die on right now is to take those hooves off. We get a lot of stuff that has hooves on it, and I totally, I get it to an extent that you're trying to get it out of there, and it's easier to stick it in a game bag with that hoof on. But if you're packing stuff out, A, it's extra weight. And B, if you've just done a good job, skinning it and keeping it clean, you're kind of screwing it up at the end there by adding more hide into the bag, more hair, whatever was on that animal's hoof, whatever it was. And then by the time we get it, it's a little more work for us. And we can't, you can see these quarters hanging back here. Like we can't hang it with a hoof on. It's so close to the ceiling up there. So, and it's really easy to take off. I just put up a video on my Instagram, I think yesterday, of how to take off that.
You're talking foot. Like basically the shin, like the whole lower leg, correct?
Yeah. Like you just run your hand up and that first joint that you feel, there's a little ridge in there. You just get your knife in there and it should, you can kind of hit it from underneath and it'll just crack off.
Yep.
And you won't cut the Achilles tendon.
Anything else that's helpful or people should be doing to like make sure they're going to have some like high quality meat once it's in the freezer?
Keeping stuff as clean as possible, obviously. That helps out our whole, us processing, but you're gonna get more meat back because we don't have to trim as much off. And then I'd say, I know Yanni and I have talked about this wheezening, right? But just at least getting that windpipe out of there, because that thing carries so much bacteria and it'll hold on to heat too. And so if you can pull that out of there, you're going to get neck meat. Things are just going to stay cleaner. So yeah, I think
you got any opinions on gutting versus gutless method?
No, not really. If you can get as much meat as possible off with the gutless method, that's fine. I tend to pick up a lot of roadkill. We live on a highway that, I am on it all the time. So I see when stuff gets hit and I'll pick it up. So I end up doing a lot of gutless method processing because those things are usually a little exploded and I don't see a problem with it. Right. If you can gut it, that's great and get the whole thing out. Obviously you're going to get a little bit more meat off that, but no, I have no problem with the gutless method at all.
Gotcha. Okay. What are like the most common mistakes people are making out there?
I think, not planning ahead to keep things clean. And if you want to throw even a trash bag in your pack and just lay it down, it's going to weigh nothing and you're going to have a place to put that meat on when you're pulling off quarters or whatever. You can put it on the hide, but the hide's often dirty. I run into that problem too. It's hard to keep things super clean. As far as bringing stuff to us, when you're putting stuff into game bags, don't try to keep things in as big, like the biggest chunks possible. right? Because when I open a game bag and there's a bunch of little pieces that fall out, there's not a lot I can do. I can't trim that. And if it's already a little bit dirty, it's going to go in the trash, unfortunately, because I can't
if you're if you're on a big backcountry hunt miles in, it's tempting to debone those quarters, but if you're taking it to someone like Anna, it's like not the best thing for her to work on. So
if you can debone it and keep it, in big chunks, all good. But it's the little, I'll dump out and it'll be like little quarter-sized pieces and
mystery chunks.
Not a lot. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, how fast can you do an elk? Not wrapped, but just skinned, broken down into roast steaks and maybe a pile of grind.
That's a good question. I mean, I'd say 2 hours, maybe. 2 hours. Probably. Yeah, I don't usually. I mean, I'm either like skinning it and hanging it, or it's already quartered, and then I'm going to go cut it. But I got into this from working at a shop, and I worked on the kill floor, and I would skin and gut 30 sheep in a day, sometimes 20 before lunch. So I can skin and gut pretty fast. It's just cutting that'll take a little bit longer, but yeah.
Are there anything? You probably have a pretty good clientele that knows what they're doing, but are there some things that might cause you to just to refuse working on an animal or like a set of quarters or whatever?
Yeah, I've learned my lesson as far as checking in game bags before I take stuff, especially if it's from people I don't know. Last year I got the dirtiest stuff I've ever seen. You would have thought they tied it to the back of their truck and just drug it through the dirt to bring it out. But, and I didn't realize that until after the fact. So I did charge them. I'll charge a dirty fee, if I don't see it beforehand. And then during archery season, we'll have people call and they didn't really have a plan. And there's been, an antelope that's been in the hot garage for 2 days. And it's I'm not going to take that on because the meat's going to be spoiled and it's not worth putting, our business at risk. To give you something that might make you sick or isn't going to taste very good. So I think having a plan beforehand, whether it's, that you're going to get out and you're going to call a few people, see if they have openings, and, if they don't, if you have a last minute plan, you can at least do it. But don't let it hang to the point that it rots. That drives me nuts.
If you were giving advice to someone who's just getting into processing their own animal, what would you tell them, as far as what they need to know or what equipment they absolutely should get themselves?
Just don't overthink it. You really can't mess it up. You might not get the cut that you want because you accidentally cut through it or whatever, but everything can be at least turned into burger or sausage. So don't stress too hard about it. Watch some YouTube videos. There's some really good videos out there that will show breakdown. And seam butchering is pretty easy. I mean, you can see, inside round sirloin tip. You can see it on there. And but you don't have to go crazy with it. Don't stress yourself out. Everything's edible as long as it's clean. As far as tools to have, honestly, a sharp knife is about all you need. When I'm doing game processing, that's all I use. And Jesse and I were just talking about this. He makes knives and he has the ability to, sharpen stuff with his grinder. We really don't sharpen our knives. And for as much as we use them, you'd think that we'd be sharpening them, but I have it here. This is my savior. It's a honing steel. Yeah. And that's all I use. And in the summer, I butcher chickens and I'll do over 300 chickens a day. And that's all I'll use. And I won't even sharpen it at the end of the day. So I think for people, knives become sort of a stressor about, I don't know how to sharpen it. I don't know what knife to get. You can get a Victorinox or you can spend money on a knife. But as long as you've got it, I would say a honing steel is really all you need. Learn how to use it, and it's.
But I think the key, Anna, right, is that you're using that honing steel constantly through the day, and you don't let that blade get to the point where you can't bring it back? Or do you feel like you can actually sharpen a blade that's like completely dull? Can you bring it back just with that steel, or at that point do you have to grind it a little bit?
At that point, you need to grind it a little bit because that steel, what it's doing, there's burrs on the edge of that knife. And as you're cutting, they're going to fold over. And this honing steel is just lining the burrs up again. So it'll start to feel like it's dull. It's not. It's just those burrs are out of line. And so you hone it back into a line and it'll be sharp again. But if you've got something that is past the point of, the whole edge is rolled over or whatever, you're going to have to use a stone or a grinding belt.
I got one more for you, and I want to get your opinion. There's like people choose, lead bullets or copper bullets, solid bullets, like for various reasons. But from your perspective as someone who's cutting up meat all the time, what would you choose? Would you choose like a lead bullet or a solid copper bullet as far as like getting good meat?
I've thought about this a lot, and I feel like this, the copper versus lead, it's so complicated. Ballistics and calibers and all that are fascinating to me, but I don't know a ton about them. And I was, it'd be an interesting experiment to sort of ask people as they drop stuff off what they used. Cause I will find stuff sometimes. Like last year, I pulled a couple copper bullets out of an elk shank. I don't really know what was going on there, but so I will find stuff. I'll find, something in the ribs or in the, if something gets stuck in a shoulder blade or whatever. But it kind of runs the gamut. I find all kinds of stuff. And I really think like my understanding and my feeling on this is just, it depends on the caliber you're using. It depends on how far you think you're going to be shooting. And sort of your confidence in even recovering an animal, right? Because in my mind, it's like the lead thing is like, if you're not sure that animal is going to go down, then that's really where you hit some issues. And like, we do mobile slaughter when we're not doing game processing, we're doing mobile slaughter and we use lead, but, and we're using 38 special or, I'm trying to think what else we have right now. I think we're just using 38 special right now, but, that's lead, but we also just can pull it out of the skull or the back of the neck. We know where that's going. So,
can you look at a front quarter on an elk or a deer that was shot in the shoulder and be like, oh, I know what that was? Like, do you see more damage from one or the other, or?
I don't think I noticed so much as far as copper or lead. I notice caliber.
Oh, really?
I picked up a deer from a kid the other day and he's like, oh, I shot all the way through it. I shot it with the 243. And then another kid that had shot with 300 Win Mag and blew up both shoulders. And I don't know if they were copper or lead. I didn't ask them, but it's like, man, you can tell. You can for sure tell. Caliber, I'd say. But I don't know. I you mentioning that makes me want to ask next season and sort of like take a survey. You guys got anything for her? You look like you're falling asleep over there. Jeez.
No, I was just thinking about how I didn't. I meant to defrost some steaks this morning from the elk you dropped off yesterday, and I realized I failed to do that. So I'm gonna have to run home and get the sous vide fired up. Probably.
That was fun cutting your elk because we have we've got this old bandsaw. That makes game processing pretty fun because I can do, like blade in, shoulder roast. I can do ossobuco really easily. Cut short ribs if someone brings out ribs. It's fun. It's fun
Anna did.
For people who like to cook.
Yeah, Anna did the bison that my wife shot last year, and we got ribs, and we got tomahawk steaks, and we got ossobuco bones, and then we got just like long cut marrow bones out of the whole thing.
Yep. Speaking of that kind of stuff, Anna, ribs and ossobuco and stuff. What do you most often see like that gets tossed or left on the carcass that hunters should be keeping? What, like, obviously they're, want and waste laws where they have to keep certain stuff, but what do you see getting left behind? And it could even be like organs.
I'm a big fan of the tougher cuts. So like neck meat. I like doing the sort of low and slow cooking. Neck roasts are awesome. I also understand if people don't want to be cooking with the spinal cord in there and you're worried about CWD and stuff.
Right.
But if you bone out that neck, that's really nice stew meat. I also on elk, because I do this on beef all the time, you can pull the cheeks out, and cheek meat is one of my favorite. It is so good, and elk have at least big enough cheeks to make it worth it. Deer might be a little like silver dollar size, but yeah, you just throw those in a Dutch oven and cook them for a few hours.
I'm gonna have to try that for sure.
They're so good, yeah. And tongues, people pull out tongues a lot, hearts. I like seeing that, and then livers if they're good. I'm a big liver fan. I know plenty of people aren't, which is fair, but yeah, I don't know. I think the more you play with it and the more you hunt, the more you've got, options of what to cook. And it's really fun to get creative with it because it can get a little boring after a while, just cooking backstraps and burger.
Yeah. All right. You guys got anything else or we want to move on?
We're good. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
All right. Get to work.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Looks like you got a lot.
I've got a lot to do.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. Hot tip-off time.
Oh, geez.
Are you ready?
No, we need to play the jingle.
I'm tired of this jingle, guys.
Okay, Phil's tired of it.
But we're going to play it anyway!
H-O-T-T-I-P-R. Let's all do a hot tip-off. H-O-T-T-I-P-R.
I'm kind of tired of it too, Phil.
Let's all do a hot tip-off.
No, it's so good.
There's some segments we do a lot because they're good segments, like Hot Tip Off, and we hear that jingle all the time. And it doesn't help that it's one of the more poppy, I'd say, annoying, grating jingles.
I think you're right, Phil.
We got to bring back tattoos I regret.
Brody is thoroughly annoyed right now.
No, I love all of Phil's songs except for that one. I hate it.
Got to kill the segment then. Sorry, guys.
Hot tip off, where two listeners go head to head with competing pieces of advice. And after we hear each tip, we'll chat about who we think should win, but the audience is going to decide who does win. If you got a hot tip yourself, take a 1 minute-ish video and email it to radio@themeateater.com, and you might get your hot tip into the show and win something. We do have a prize today.
Oh
too.
yeah, I was gonna ask. Is there something that they're winning, or is this just for fun?
Oh my goodness gracious!
A backpack.
What's this thing called again, Janis?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask me that. It's the Transfer Light.
Yeah. We got it's like Santa's toy bag, man. We got stuff in there. We got a signed copy of the MeatEater calendar there, which you guys should go buy if you don't have one, because we kick back some money to BHA. It's a great stocking stuffer.
Buy some for your friends, family.
Yeah, exactly. It's not expensive, man.
Anybody who loves trucks or the F word, they'll get a kick out of it.
Exactly. And also in there was a rattle bag. That's the Phelps Smash and Clash. I like that. Yeah. So there you go. Got some stuff for whitetail hunters.
Man, that's a hell of a haul.
I think you could use this bag for other stuff. I mean, I you could throw. I'd use it for bird hunting. I'd put it in my boat and shove some stuff in there. It's not just for whitetails. So there we go. There's our prize. Let's see here. Who do we got?
Let's see the hot tips. Caden and Dak.
Yeah, Caden Bonner and Dak Cash. So make sure you're throwing your vote in, and we'll figure out who the winner is. Phil, are you ready to roll them?
Let's do it.
Caden Bonner.
This is good.
Hello, my name is Caden, and I am from Nebraska. This last weekend, we were out for Nebraska rifle season and heard a bunch of coyotes, and so we were trying to figure out how to call them in and make a predator call. So pulled out a little Debbie out of my backpack, which most hunters should have, and came up with how to make a predator call. Put it like that, and then just pull it tight.
Improviser.
Yeah. Like that definitely would work.
And that is how you make a predator call out of a Little Debbie wrapper.
There we go. There's
Dak Cash.
Hey, MeatEater crew, got a hot tip for you. Mostly for small game hunters, especially squirrels. If you don't like packing your squirrels out in a game bag or a vest, all you gotta do, cut your little green limb about like this, sharpen one end, grab the squirrel by the back leg, rip those 2 side toes off. Sometimes harder than others. You can use your knife if you want to. Once you rip those toes, stick the stick in between tendons and the bones. You got a squirrel carrier.
It's like
the more the merrier.
It's a stringer.
And if you get tired of carrying it, you can stick it in your belt loop.
That's the whole system. I love it.
Yep. Nice early man tool there.
Mm-hmm.
Like so.
That part I
Walk
like a
around
lot.
with it.
Hands free.
If you want to make a squirrel come out and look at you, you can flick the tail. Thanks, guys. Dak Cash from Arkansas, Clay Nickham's area.
Randall, who you like?
Caden won me over at first because of his commitment to Little Debbie snack products.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was an oatmeal cream pie.
One of the finest that Little Debbie offers.
I used to house those things by
The
the
OCP.
dozen. Yeah. We get them.
Luke Combs says.
But man, I'm just Dak charmed me with his accent, with his innovative squirrel handling techniques, and just the versatility of that whole tip.
Janis?
I'll have to agree. I mean, it's very, what do you call it when you just like come up with something on the spot?
Improvising?
Yeah. Cade, how do you say his name? Caden?
Caden.
Improvise great. You
Yeah,
know?
and
he
you
made
don't-
it happen. I wish he would have told us if they actually called something in with it. or
Yeah,
not.
I mean, both of these guys improvise great.
Yeah, they're good hot tips, but
You know, and the thing is if I were out deer hunting and I heard some coyotes, I would think, damn, I don't have a predator call. I wouldn't
Yeah.
think, what can I do to make a predator call?
Definitely, it's close.
Like,
man.
I like that mindset.
I like the idea of just building something on the spot too. Like you don't always got to go, buy something. You can just make it right there. It's cool. So I'm leaning towards Dak, but it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the audience thinks. Phil,
That's a
I'd
great
say
point.
one of our listeners was in a runaway lead, and the poll is tightening quickly.
Really?
So your votes matter. Get in there.
Yeah.
We'll give it another 30 seconds or so.
you
Yeah,
got
there's-
any other comments we can hit while you're tallying votes? Anyone?
Oh, sure. Let's see here. Cliff is wondering, serious question, are we going to see Randall claws this year?
Just wait.
TBD, but
Gotta watch and
you
find
just
out.
the thing is, you got to believe. He doesn't come unless you believe.
It's like the Polar Express.
But I feel like you and Brent are kind of battling for Santa Claus rights around here.
Brent's a Southerner. He can't win.
Yeah, but he's got the.
Well, that's both of you guys are going to be on that live tour. and
Yeah.
have you guys had like a rock paper scissors Rochambeau of who's going to be taking?
Brent's doing it.
Brent's doing it.
Oh,
I tried
tough.
to insert myself, but I didn't want to be like. I'd like to be Santa. I didn't want to put myself on that. I just said, I'll if you need someone to wear a Santa
course.
costume the whole time, I'll do that.
Classic
Maybe he
angle.
could be Father Christmas, and you'd be like his apprentice.
Yeah, or we could be different regional variations on Santa. Like I would be Kris Kringle or some sort of Germanic.
Right.
Sure.
Well, we have a lot of
Spooky
shows
Santa.
to do. He might get tired and need a break.
Yeah, he is older. He might tire out.
Yeah,
Okay.
stay tuned for Randall Claus.
All right, who won, Phil?
Well, man, it's hard for me to. I'm going to give them another 30 seconds because it's so close.
Let's do one
It's
more
so
comment.
close.
Yeah, we should see 334 votes in there, guys.
Okay, if you guys could sacrifice Steve to the hunting gods in return for any tag, species, or location, what would it be? This is from Evan.
Well, I'd probably go on some super expensive stone sheep hunt
Yeah.
in some crazy mountains.
All
in
sheep,
Canada.
stone sheep.
Yeah, I think I'd love a mountain goat hunt, but given that we're sacrificing Steve for this, I feel like you sort of owe it to Steve to go for the big high dollar hunt.
Yeah. Maybe you go do a Cape Buffalo.
Do a Marco Polo hunt.
Man, I'd take I know it's Steve, but I'd take just a bighorn hunt right here in Montana.
Oh yeah, that question.
It'd be pretty cool.
This is wild. It is flipping back and forth
my
every
God.
2 or
Listen,
3 seconds. I can't
if
call
we
it yet,
can't
Brody.
declare a winner, then we're just going to have to
I
give
will
them both
say
a prize.
that over 200 people who are watching this right now have not voted.
Can we
get
set
off
a
your
timer?
butts. Should I set a timer? I'll
Yeah, let's set a
Here we
timer.
go. 60 more seconds. We have to end it at some point.
All right, one more comment, and we'll come back and declare a winner.
Yeah, my teeth are about to float.
All right, hold on.
Oh, Janis has to pee.
Setting the timer here.
Oh, I see. I
We
thought
should
that was
bring
like
a pee bottle into the studio.
I thought that was like a comment
a
about
good
you being
idea.
malnourished.
Do we have any muzzleloader people with
Yeah.
muzzleloader experience at the
I
table
can-
here?
maybe.
Okay,
It
Brian
depends if
Lammers is asking, what muzzleloader powder bullet combo have you found to be most accurate?
If he's talking about inline muzzleloaders, which I have much more experience with, like you can't go wrong like with a TC muzzleloader inline. Blackhorn, it's just like the regular Blackhorn black powder. It might even be synthetic black powder. And I use I think it's Federal's copper bullets, and I've done real well with that combination.
And it probably depends a lot on the state that you're in and what their
Right,
requirements
you
are.
got different
Yeah.
rules
Yeah.
for sure. But like I don't, a lot of the inline muzzle loaders these days are set up for magnum loads of 150 grains. I've found that I've gotten way better accuracy results by not going with, like, you can choose what load you use. You don't have to use 150 grains of powder. And I've always done way better with about 100 grains accuracy wise. And I shot a Shiras cow moose with that setup, and it went right through both of her shoulders. So there you go.
Okay, I let it run, and the person who started off in the lead also ended up winning. Our winner with 53% of the vote at the end of
nail
the
biter.
poll.
That's not even close in a presidential election, Phil.
No, but it was 50-50 going back and forth for
Yeah.
a while. So this guy's fan stepped up, and that person is Dak with the squirrel holder.
Squirrel Man Dak, congratulations.
He doesn't need that squirrel holder anymore. You're going to shove them all in this bag.
That's
Yeah.
right. Congrats, Dak.
There you go.
Beautiful work, everybody.
You did it. We'll have our producer Jake reach out to you.
Yep.
Who's actually in the room today from Missoula. He's in Bozeman. I don't. Do I have his camera on? I do have his camera on. Say hi, Jake.
There he is.
Oh, hi.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Before we go, we've got some great new gifty stuff in the store. We've got some new gnome logo wear. We got some of our spices up there now, spice mixes. That Bayou Boil, I can tell you, is very good. I've used it a couple times on some fish, and it's great. Live tour, guys, what do you got to say about that?
Getting excited. Getting real excited.
Some of those venues are getting close to selling out, so people need to buy their tickets.
Yeah, last I saw, that's like 80% sold out, which is compared to prior years. Like
One of the
leading up-
venues is already sold
Fayetteville,
out.
yeah, Clay.
Clay's crew came out in force.
Clay's family.
Yep.
Clay's extended
His
kin.
mountain family.
Yeah,
They came down from the hills.
they're very supportive.
Yeah, it's always fun to go do these things. You know, it's a marathon, but we'll have a good time.
You guys,
We'll do one more
I think
question. Moses from Mogor, he was setting us up for this. Question for Randall and Yanni. Sorry, Brody, but he's asking how nervous do you guys get before a tour?
It's good to hear from Mogor, even if it's at the very end.
I
of
don't
the
know. I feel like
broadcast today.
Mogar's starting to have a little too much influence on this show.
Nope.
How dare
That's
you?
heresy.
He's been nothing but supportive and kind.
I'll say this, Mogor. Last year, I was very, very nervous before the first show. And then it was like a drug, and I couldn't get enough of it. Just the life of a showman.
Sure, those weren't the beers you had before the show?
Could have been a few of those, but just going out there, having fun. And I'm a worrier. I get stressed out about things. I get anxious. But God, it's like a drug just being on the stage with the hot spotlight on you, the microphone in your hand, and they're just eating from they're just eating from your palm. Oh, nothing better. Working on some great material. I need to workshop it at a couple stand-up nights this week, but we should be good to go.
Nice. I need to work on my material too. I feel like I've got a decent amount of stories, but yeah, I haven't actually recited it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've been doing it so long now, Mogor, that it's just you just realize that I don't know, people in the audience are more nervous than you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Janis, what do we got going on with roasts?
Oh yeah, new episode dropped, maybe already on MeatEater YouTube channel. It's Best Burger episode. Brody Henderson faces off with Nate Mason from FHF Gear.
Good
big
guy.
Nate.
Good guy.
Great guy.
It was live as of an hour ago. A little over an hour, so it's up.
So go watch it and tell us what you think in the comments. And if you have any ideas for MeatEater roasts, drop in the comments too. Love to hear ideas on how to make that show better. Thanks for watching.
All right, signing off. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks,
Phil. Let's get beers.
Oh no! Wait, I forgot to play. I almost ended the stream
That
without
would have
playing
been
the outro.
so cool if the outro had played right as soon as I said that.